Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Siegel, and I'm here to welcome you today to our webinar, the YLD ABA YLD Affiliate Network, how to leverage resources and opportunities for your young lawyer organization. We have a great panel here today with four of our national leaders at the ABA YLD. I'm going to call out each of them in turn to introduce themselves, speak one or two sentences about what they're going to be presenting on today. And then we will move into the presentations portion. At the end of that, we will then begin the Q&A. That'll be the final 10 minutes or so of the program, during which we're all going to be available here to answer your questions. And of course, we're all going to be available offline as well for you if you have any questions, or if anyone you know has any questions about the ABA YLD and how our resources can work for you at your local bar. All right, so Chris, if you would like to introduce yourself first.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Brown. I am the Deputy Law Director for my hometown in Mansfield, Ohio. And this year, 2020 to 2021, I am honored to be your ABA YLD Chair. And so as chair, for my part of the presentation today, I'll be talking about all the different teams that we have and going over the leadership structure of the YLD, so you can find out how you can get involved and what resources we have to benefit your affiliate and your affiliate's constituents. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to be speaking second today, in addition to being your moderator. My name is Sam Siegel. I'm a plaintiff's personal injury attorney out of Boston, Massachusetts. I've owned my own practice now for about 5 years. I am in my final year at the ABA YLD. I've previously served as the district representative for Massachusetts and New Hampshire, and I am the current affiliates director, which means I am here for you to help our affiliates access and use these resources that we're going to be talking about today. So my portion is going to focus on a lot of those resources that we bring to bear for you. Esther, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Esther Hyun, and I'm the YLD Diversity and Inclusion Director. I'm going to be covering diversity and inclusion related programs and resources within the YLD.
All right, thank you, Esther. And then Eli Contreras, introduce yourself as well for our participants.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. My name is Eli Contreras. I'm an attorney from California, and later on in today's webinar, I'll be talking to you about ABA YLD Publications and how you can get an article published and have it go out to all of our members across the U.S.
All right, thank you, Eli. So to begin our program today, we're going to turn it over to our ABA YLD chair, Chris Brown, who's going to be talking about leadership potentials and possibilities for you and your members. Chris, take it away.
Thanks again, Sam. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to tell you a little bit more about myself because I think it can give some insight to how the ABA can help you, your affiliate, and your affiliate's members. As I mentioned, I'm a local government attorney. And the reason why I mention this is because oftentimes, if you can believe it, I'll meet young lawyers from across the country and they'll say, bar associations don't have a lot for me. I think that's better suited for the private practice folks and all the networking opportunities that come with them. But I'm here to tell you, as my own experience would show, bar association leadership and engagement can be extremely valuable for government attorneys as well. I'm from a small town. We're about halfway between Columbus and Cleveland. If you've ever seen Shawshank Redemption, that was filmed here in Mansfield. That's our claim to fame. And I bring that up for the same reason as I mentioned being a government attorney. Oftentimes people think getting involved with a national organization like the ABA is only valuable to people who live in New York or DC or San Francisco. But I'm here to tell you that it's extremely valuable for folks that live in the smaller towns across our country as well. That's one of the main reasons why I joined the ABA YLD and got engaged. There's not a whole lot of young lawyers here in Mansfield, and after getting involved with my local bar association, I said, you know what, I'd really like to meet some of my fellow young lawyers from across the country and see what they can provide and what I can learn from them. I also like to mention that I myself am a former affiliate leader. I was the Ohio State Bar Association Young Lawyer Section Chair. So thanks for tuning in today, all of you affiliate leaders out there. I know exactly how important and how valuable those positions are, having held one myself previously. And I'm a former district rep. Just as Sam mentioned, I used to represent the 18th District, Ohio and West Virginia. So on our next slide here, I'm going to be showing you the YLD structure and opportunities. We're a huge organization. We have over 27,000 members in the ABA YLD, and we have all kinds of different opportunities. I often like to say, you know, if you can dream it, you can probably find your place in the ABA YLD. Because of that, it can also be a little bit complex. So I wanted to break it down. We have our officers, which are constituted of what we call our chair line. That's our secretary, our chair-elect, and then our chair. We have our speaker line, who oversees our policy-making body, the YLD Assembly, and that's our clerk and our speaker. And then we have a YLD treasurer as well. We have constitutional representatives to the larger bodies within the ABA, including the Board of Governors and the ABA House of Delegates and Nominating Committee. We have a council, which is how many of you probably come to find the YLD leadership through your district representatives. And that council includes all those DRs, plus all of our constitutional representatives, as well as our directors. We have 15 directors who oversee our projects, initiatives, and teams. And on the right side of your screen, you'll see things like, as Sam mentioned, our affiliates director, as Esther is our diversity and inclusion director. But we also have a disaster legal services team, a legal innovation team, a law student outreach team, marketing and communication, as well as membership director. We have our national conferences team, which helps put together our conferences, which I'll tell you a little bit more about here in a minute. We have practice services directors, which oversees all our committees and liaisons, a professional development director, and then our two new teams for this year that we're very excited about, our student loan debt and financial wellness team, as well as our wellness team, which oversees wellness more holistically. Another way that you may have been involved before also is as an assembly delegate. Each year we have assembly twice, and we will bring affiliates from all across the country. So if you're interested in doing that, make sure you reach out to your affiliates chair or your DR. Here, as you're looking at this, you can see how everything fits together. As I mentioned, it is pretty complicated, but everything within this square that you're looking at is our YLD Council. And that includes those directors that I mentioned, the district reps. Something else that Esther can probably talk about as well, our national affiliate reps. So these are our diverse bar associations from across the country, like the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association, the National Bar Association, the LGBT Bar Association, and so on and so forth. All of these folks come together 4 times a year to work and carry out the governance functions of the YLD. So as I mentioned, on our next slide here, you will see open liaison positions. Now, I just described to you the very complex nature of the YLD. The ABA is just like that, but even on a bigger scale. And one of the ways that we keep in contact with all of the sections, divisions, forums, and standing committees within the ABA is by having young lawyer leaders appointed as liaisons to those bodies. Currently, we still have several open liaison positions. Now, for those of you watching a recorded version, I would like to kindly remind you that today is September 22nd. And while I still encourage you to please reach out to me and our leadership about serving in one of these liaison positions, please remember that that position may have been filled by time that you reach out. But don't let that stop you. We'll still, I'm sure, have plenty of opportunities available to serve. But here are some of the great ones: the Law Practice Division, the Senior Lawyers Division, the Standing Committee on Gun Violence. All of these things are extremely important issues to work on within the ABA from a national perspective. So if you're thinking about finding a way to get involved for the first time with the ABA, one of these liaison positions would be fantastic. So please do reach out. And if you're interested in one of these, I would love to chat more with you about them. On our next slide here, as I mentioned, one of the other things the YLD does, we meet twice a year for what we call YLD Assembly. As I mentioned, this is led by our ABA YLD speaker this year, that is Christopher Jennison from Silver Spring, Maryland. And we meet twice a year to adopt policy positions of the YLD. If you're interested in serving as a certified assembly delegate, please contact your DR or your affiliate chair to certify. Much like the states and voting in regular elections, each state across the country handles how they select their delegates a little bit differently. But we do great and really important work here where we adopt policy that then folks like me as the chair can go out and then advocate on behalf of the YLD and serve as the voice of the YLD across the country. Some of the examples of our past YLD resolutions have been to get lactation rooms in courthouses, improving paternal leave and continuances in court for new parents. We most recently at our annual 2020 meeting just a few months ago passed a resolution encouraging states not to have in-person bar exams during the COVID-19 pandemic. We also recently passed a resolution to end black hair discrimination. And then we have also encouraged the Supreme Court to adopt and enforce ethics rules. So as you can probably see, just from that short list of YLD resolutions, there's been a number of very important topics that appeal to all different types of folks through YLD Assembly. So if that's something you're interested in, please reach out to our ABA YLD speaker, Chris Jennison, and talk to him about potentially drafting a resolution that could become YLD policy if it's voted upon by the Assembly. I would like to note that although you may not be able to have speaking privileges at Assembly, you don't necessarily have to be a certified delegate to help draft a resolution and report for Assembly. That's all I have for now. I'm happy to take questions about any of those things that I covered. And I would also like to encourage you to mark your calendars for our upcoming conferences and meetings. Typically, we get together 4 times a year in person. Because of the aforementioned pandemic, this year is going to be a little bit different. And our fall conference will be next month, October 7th through the 9th, and that will be all virtual. You can register now on the ABA YLD website. And hopefully, if things start to get under control, remaining ever the optimist, we'll be meeting in Chicago in February, Pittsburgh in April, and Toronto in August. As you can imagine, all of those have a little asterisk right now, pending the future public health situation that is before us. But as I mentioned, ever the optimist, I hope that we will be getting together in person sooner than later. Back to you, Sam.
All right, thank you, Chris. So yep, as I introduced myself earlier to everyone, my name is Sam Siegel. I'm the current affiliates director for the American Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. That's for the current bar year. My position will run from mid-August of this year, 2020, through the annual meeting next year in August of 2021. My purpose, I just want to speak briefly about my role as the affiliates director. Previously, much like Chris, I was also the chair of my local affiliate organization, which was the Massachusetts Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. I initially out of law school got involved at the Mass Bar Association here in Boston, eventually serving as the treasurer and then as the chair-elect and the chair of that organization before sort of making the leap to the American Bar Association. Not that you need to. Our current district representative who replaced me, Katarina, she does not have a senior leadership position in New Hampshire, so it is not a prerequisite. You can get involved at the national level with any level of experience as a young lawyer. We welcome all kinds of participation and experiences, and we want to encourage everyone to get involved. To that end, as an affiliate, what that means is the Mass Bar Association, for instance, is an organization, independent. It's a private organization in Massachusetts, but they've been voted in as affiliated with the American Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. That gives them some rights to send delegates to council and to our assembly, and to then also access a lot of these resources on the national stage. We have affiliates in all 50 states and territories. We have affiliates in the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico as well. So I want to make sure that you understand that as an affiliate leader in your local organization, we are kind of the next level up, and we can work together to put together some great programs. And to that end, the first thing I want to talk about here is the subgrants program. And what that is every year, the ABA YLD sets aside a portion of its budget to fund programs at the local level. These are programs hosted by our affiliates. First, I want to talk about the public service projects. Now, what those are projects that are going to help advance a legal good in a local community towards public service, whether it's a pro bono opportunity or an organization to provide a benefit maybe to law students taking the bar. A public service project, we have some requirements for each of these, and in your materials you'll find links to the guidelines and the different descriptions on our website. The basics for a public service award, we can award up to $1,000 for the subgrant, and the application is going to be due March 1st of 2021. And there's also a link I submitted on the materials that is to an application, a successful application that I submitted on a regional summit, which I'll get to in a second. But it's a good baseline template to work with, so you don't have to invent your own application out of whole cloth. There's some guidelines, things to make sure you're including. You make sure you're including different local affiliates, diverse groups, your law student organizations locally. And if you have any questions about that, your ambassador to the ABA YLD is that district representative. And they are, a lot of them represent 2 states at once or 2 regions at once. Some of the states like Texas and California actually have multiple district representatives because they are much larger. And it would be a bit onerous to have one district representative for 30 plus affiliates. So if you need any information on that, who is your district rep, make sure to reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you. Your district representatives should also be reaching out to your local organizations to make sure that connection is bridged. The second service subgrant here is the Bar Leadership Membership Services Project. These are $500 subgrants up to, again, with a deadline for an application of March 1st, 2021. These subgrants, again, are for advancing the leadership of the bar, young lawyer CLEs or leadership projects. Really, the range of programs is pretty flexible, and we'll be happy to work with you if you submit an application and maybe it's missing 1 or 2 things. We'll work with you to make sure we can get it up to a snuff and get it passed hopefully and approved so you can put together this great program. The third type of subgrant, perhaps the most ambitious ones, are the regional summits. Now, what these are organizational meetings between affiliate groups of more than one state. So for instance, in Massachusetts, we've hosted, or in New England, we've hosted, I think, 3 in the past 10 years now. We hosted one up in New Hampshire at a lovely hotel there. And basically the way these programs work is the goal is to increase, coordination or some other kind of leadership across different bar organizations. The last one we hosted in Massachusetts was out of Worcester, and it included affiliates from Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. We're all invited, as well as the local law student organizations and affiliate organizations of each of those states. And what happened was we put together an agenda for the day. You can see it in the subgrant application template, where we had a leadership program with speakers. We invited the current chair. He came of the ABA YLD to speak. We then did a coordination, some icebreakers, different sessions talking about different programs each affiliate was putting on, and kind of help cross-pollinate ideas for some really good programs that the different states were doing and different joint programs that we could do. And so the budget for those are up to $3,000, and the deadline for that's a little bit sooner. So it's November 15th, 2020. And if any affiliates are out in the western part of the United States, I know as of right now, there's one big regional summit being put together by the Rocky Mountain Western state bars. So it's pretty much everyone from Wyoming down to New Mexico. So if you have an affiliate organization in that network, reach out to me. I can definitely connect you with the bar leaders at the ABA YLD putting that together. You know, I'm sure they'll be happy to invite additional affiliates you know, that want to get involved. They're putting together the application right now, but the program doesn't actually have to happen until anytime, I believe, through the end of June 2021. So they're going to be putting on their program at the end of April, I believe is the current date selected. Their goal, as Chris was saying optimistically, is to have it in person. I believe the location is going to be in New Mexico, but obviously, you know, asterisk next to that for the health crisis. All right, so next we're going to be talking about the initiatives. So I'm going to speak briefly about these YLD initiatives, and then Esther is going to speak a bit more in depth to the extent that they are really about diversity and inclusion. In short, the ABA YLD puts together a lot of prepackaged programs for your local affiliates to utilize and benefit from. For instance, a seat at the table is about including young lawyers in local politics and decision making. Letters were sent to different mayors and local leaders throughout the country as part of that program, encouraging them to appoint young lawyers to commissions, committees, different local leadership positions, because we want to make sure that young lawyers' voices are heard. That's one of our goals for our organization. Same thing, the No Limits program deals with the challenges women attorneys face, as well as some strategies and solutions. And the Men of Color Project offers a lot of resources for men of color from law school into their first years of practice. And these are multi-year programs with a ton of robust programming available, different recorded CLEs, speakers, opportunities to really use these programs and to advance the cause of equality and representation. I know a lot of my district representatives I've been hearing from lately with the health crisis have said a lot of their affiliates are adapting well, doing a lot of remote programming. A lot are struggling, and that struggle has been difficult for a lot of these smaller or organizations that are struggling to get membership motivated in a time where we can't see each other, when everyone is dealing with this health crisis. And so one thing we're also looking to do are more programs like this one, the one you're attending today. We've been putting together a ton of great video webinars we're going to be making available throughout the year. And so keep your ear to the ground and, help, cross-pollinate. A lot of these are going to be free and available to the members and to anyone who wants to access them, much like this one was. Also, as Chris mentioned, we have our meetings. We're still going to be going forward with our 4 annual conferences, our meetings. And it's going to be starting with the fall meeting in just a couple weeks, October 7th to the 9th. And as part of that, we have a whole slew of great programs lined up. They're all going to be virtual, so you can attend virtually, listen in, and get the benefit of some, terrific programming without having the burden of traveling and staying at a burden. I mean, it's quite fun. I encourage attendance at the meetings. I think they're great. But you can do it from the comfort and safety of your home for now, which is great as well. So keep an eye out for a lot more national programming for our affiliates. That really is one of our goals, is to make sure that we have that available for our members. And then the last thing I'm going to be talking about this morning is going to be the national recognition. So the ABA YLD offers different types of awards and recognition for our affiliates for the programs they put on throughout the year. The first opportunity we have are the Stars of the Quarter. And what that means is that every one of our meetings, so you saw that calendar with the fall one upcoming in early October, at our council meeting with the leadership there of the ABA YLD, we acknowledge and give accolades to a couple different affiliate organizations throughout the country for some exceptional program that they've put together and undertaken. That is an award that is some recognition. I know the MBA YLD, my former organization, got one last year, and they were thrilled. I got to speak at the council meeting on their behalf, and really boost the great work they had done there for an annual Young Lawyers Conference they've been putting together for a couple years. So that Star of the Quarter program is really available through the district representatives. You know, in order for us to give these accolades, we have to be aware of the programs. So get to know your district representatives and let them know of the great programs you're putting together. Our goal for the bar year is to make sure we acknowledge different affiliates throughout the country for different types of programming. So, you know, make sure to submit everything you have been doing, and we want to make sure you get the acknowledgement you deserve. The second thing, a bit more formally, are the Awards of Achievement. This is an annual set of awards we give. The nomination period is going to be March 15, 2021 to May 15, 2021. In the materials, you'll see the links to the materials on our website about how that works and what we're looking for in winners. And then the awards are given at our annual meeting, which is the big meeting of the entire national bar, the ABA. So that's an opportunity to get some, you know, real recognition there for your local programs. So that is some of the affiliate resources we have available for you. If you have any questions about, you know, how our affiliate system works, what we here at the ABA YLD can do for you, or anything else related to the programming, sub-grants, or recognition, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You'll have my contact info in the materials. I'm always available to answer questions, and I'm happy to help. So now I'm going to pass the baton back over to Esther, who's going to be talking about our diversity and inclusion opportunities. All right, take it away, Esther.
Thanks, Sam. So like Sam mentioned, I'm going to be covering some of the diversity and inclusion related programs and resources within the YLD. On the next slide, you'll see a list of D&I programs. I'll be highlighting the Scholars Program and the Embracing Diversity Challenge. You can learn more about the other programs listed through our Diversity and Inclusion landing page, which I have linked to later in a later slide. So before I get into the programs, I wanted to quickly provide an overview of the diversity and inclusion team. So I work with 3 vice directors, Daryl Wilson, Lauren Barnes, Shasta Inman, and the D&I team also consists of scholars, D&I related YLD committees, liaisons to Goal 3 entities, and I'll be covering a little bit more about Goal 3 entities in a later slide, and representatives from 6 national minority bar associations that Chris mentioned earlier. So those 6 minority bar associations are affiliated with the YLD. And in total, the D&I team has, I would say, over 35 members, and they all work on various D&I related programs throughout the year. All right, now let's cover the Scholars Program. So every year, minority, solo, small firm, government, public sector, and military service attorneys apply to be selected as a scholar. This year, we have a class of 16 attorneys in the program, and they're all paired with a mentor, receive funding to attend 3 conferences when we have in-person conferences again. They work on projects and gain leadership experience. The key here is that it's a great way to get involved with the YLD, especially because many of our scholars have gone on to hold numerous leadership positions, not only within the YLD, but in the greater ABA as well. Some notable positions that scholars have held are past YLD chair positions, secretary, and clerk. Like I mentioned, it's a great way to get involved with the YLD. So I encourage you to apply or encourage your local members to apply when the applications are opened. Applications usually open around early spring, I would say around February. So on the next slide, I'm going to talk about the Embracing Diversity Challenge. And this is especially of interest to our affiliates. It's another great YLD program, and it's one way we encourage affiliates like yourself to develop and put on a diversity related program. So each year, affiliates will submit a report providing information about a diversity program they've put on, and then their plans for expanding it. So the program doesn't have to be a long-standing program, but you do have to put on the program before you submit the report. And the key is that it's an impactful diversity program. When you submit your report, we'd also want to know how you're going to use the subgrant money, if awarded, to expand the program. The top 3 affiliate diversity programs are selected by a committee, and they're awarded funds to expand the program. And the funds typically have been around $1,500 for the top affiliate, $1,000, and $500 for the 3rd affiliate program that's selected. The deadline to submit a report is always a few months before our spring meeting, because we like to spotlight the top 3 affiliates and present the award at our spring meeting. So keep an eye out for the Scholars deadline and the Embracing Diversity Challenge deadline, because those will be coming up soon in the early 2021. All right, now I am going to highlight 2 toolkits that are available to affiliates and other YLD members. So one of them is the What Do Lawyers Do toolkit, and it provides you the tools to put on a program at a local college or high school to teach students basically about what do lawyers do and how to become a lawyer. The toolkit is available on our website and includes tips for selecting what do lawyers do panelists, questions for your panelists, sample flyers. I'm featuring one of the sample flyers on the PowerPoint right there. And it also includes a PowerPoint presentation. So essentially, the toolkit has everything you need to put on this program. The only thing you really need to do is identify a school that you want to put this program on for, and recruiting panelists. And the next toolkit I'm going to cover is the YLD Advocacy Toolkit. And it's a general tool to engage your members to advocate for issues pending before your state or local governing bodies. And it has everything your group needs to organize, advocate, and make sure your voice is heard. So some of the things that are included in the toolkit is ways to look up your local government leader, tips on public speaking, sample meeting requests with your local government leader, sample form letters, and more. So that is a really great toolkit. I highly recommend checking that out. If you don't have any advocacy programs with your local affiliate, it's a great tool to take a look at and take action locally. On this slide, you'll see a list of YLD D&I resource pages. I'm highlighting a couple pages. When you go to them, there's a lot of sub pages on there, so I really recommend going on there and exploring. But I first included the Diversity Inclusion YLD landing page. We also recently updated our YLD Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Plan, so you can check that out. I linked to that on the slide. The YLD just actually had a diversity and inclusion training last week where we covered the new DEI plan and talked about that. And that's also available for free to view online. So if you go on our YLD page, you should be able to access that. And it's called Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, a primer for the YLD leader. And it's a non-CLE webinar. We also have free D&I related CLE and non-CLE webinars available through the YLD website. In addition to the YLD D&I resources, on the next page, you'll see a list of ABA D&I resources. So I briefly mentioned Goal 3, and basically ABA Goal 3 is it's one of the ABA's 4 association-wide goals, and so it applies to all the different entities within the ABA, and the goal is to eliminate bias and enhance diversity. So because of Goal 3, there are actually several Goal 3 related entities within the ABA as well. and they're referred to as Goal 3 entities. And one of them is, for example, the Commission on Women in the Profession. And there is a overview of the different Goal 3 entities. So if you click on the ABA Goal 3 overview link that I have up there, you can get kind of a general overview about Goal 3 and the different Goal 3 entities within the ABA. The next resource I link to is the 2020 Goal 3 report. And this is a report that's released every year by the ABA Center for Diversity and Inclusion in the Profession. And it provides an overview of the ABA's demographics within its leadership. So it contains information about gender, race, ethnicity, transgender identification, sexual orientation, and disability identification of members within the YLD, and then other entities within the ABA as well. Finally, the third resource I linked to is the ABA Racial Equity in the Justice System webpage. And this one has a ton of resources. So if you want to just see like all the different resources that are out there within the ABA related to DNI, essentially, it's a great web page with a collection of information, which was developed for not only attorneys, but people in the legal profession, and then also the public as well. And it covers things like implicit bias, racism, and prejudice in the justice system and society. And one specific section I wanted to highlight that's available through that webpage is the practical tools section, which is a collection of trainings, tools, and other resources that have been developed by ABA entities. And some of the featured resources include a implicit bias video and toolkit. There's also a 21-day racial equity habit building challenge syllabus. And it's basically a list of short assignments that will take you maybe 10, 15 minutes every day. And it has recommended readings to like articles, it has videos, and podcasts that are recommended. And it also includes, the resource page also includes articles, such as an article on how to advise clients on civil disobedience. So that's a really great resource. So I highly recommend checking that out. There's just so many on that page that it would take me forever to list all of them. So I recommend checking that page out. I also want to mention that you're welcome to reach out to me, my vice directors, or anyone on the DNI team for more information on DNI initiatives or opportunities to volunteer. I'm basically here to be a resource to all our affiliates and YLD members, so feel free to reach out. That kind of gives you a broad overview of the different DNI resources and programs that we have within the YLD. Next up will be Eli.
You got to unmute yourself, Eli. You're talking into the void.
I wanted to make sure you all were listening.
Ah.
Yeah. So we're going to start off talking about the ABA YLD publications, but first I have a poll for all of the viewers right now. And the poll is, have you published an article? Have you ever published an article in some publication? So it's just yes or no. And we'll give you a few seconds and then you published an article. Good. So several of you have and some of you haven't. Well, I am going to give you some information today about how to go and have an article submitted for publication consideration for the ABA YLD publications. And on the next slide, you'll see that the ABA YLD actually has 3 publications in total. So we call ourselves the TYL Editorial Board, or just TYL for short, and that's a misnomer. TYL refers to all 3 of our publications. There's TYL Print Magazine. It's a glossy magazine that comes out quarterly. Each issue has a sub-theme that lends itself to an overall theme for the year. And then we have 2 digital publications. The first one is After the Bar, which launched last year, the 2019-2020 bar year. And that's directed at really young lawyers, 0 to 2 years into practice. They're getting their feet wet. They're looking for their first job. And within that publication, there are 4 generally, very broad article categories that we cover. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And then our third publication is also a digital publication called TYL Monthly. Again, it's geared toward young lawyers, but this time the entire range of young lawyers from 0 years to practice all the way up to 10. So I'll go through and talk a little bit about each publication. And on the next slide, you'll see an example of the last bar year's print issues. So the last bar year's overarching theme was level up. We wanted to provide our readers with information, articles on how to improve their practice, improve their skills. And the 4 themes were broken down to different sub-themes. The fall one was local, everything local. Job opportunities that were local, volunteer opportunities that were local, local legal and non-legal issues that might be of interest to our readers. And you can see some examples of the titles that were included for our articles and pictures of the different editors who worked on those titles. Our main feature for this article, rather for this issue, was putting local food on the menu, where we discussed all of the issues involved with sustaining local agriculture and what that might mean for different local public entities. And on the next slide, you'll see that the winter 2021 issue was the state level. So here we talked about different state level issues. The main feature was increasing access to legal services in rural areas, how a state level approach in South Dakota the state of South Dakota was going about bringing legal services to rural areas, and how that could be a model for other states to emulate. We also talked about things like state sales taxes prompting tampon tax advocacy, barriers to entry across state cannabis markets, removing politics from state judicial selection through politics. And after the state level was our spring issue. And on the next slide, you'll see that the spring issue dealt with federal issues. This one discussed articles like military spouse attorney fight for licensing accommodations, the immigration field and its various practical tips for people who wanted to break into that field. And then we had a technology piece on technology and ethics. And we also had a really interesting article from a young lawyer who discussed waiting for an organ transplant to arrive from somewhere across the country. So a lot of our articles are specific to people breaking into a certain practice area, but at the same time, there are articles that address just personal issues that young lawyers may be facing. And after the federal issue was the summer 2020 issue, so it just came out, and this was on the global level. So here we had articles from authors all across the US and around the world discussing Brexit and COVID-19, the International Space Station, battling global sex trafficking, recent International Olympic Committee changes and how those should guide the NCAA. So those are examples of how we have our 4 issues spaced out throughout the bar year, and we make sure that the articles within each align with an overarching theme. The 2020 to 2021, or the current bar year's theme, is called Get Out There. And in this theme, we want to encourage readers to create and pursue opportunities in their professional and personal lives. And we already have 2 issues that are underway or nearing completion. The fall 2020 print issue is titled Nature and Wildlife. So that's how we're going to encourage people to get out there, talk about environmental law, talk about issues that are happening in the environment that young lawyers should be aware of. The winter 2021 issue is going to talk about startups and technology. And those two are planned, which is why they have little red X's near them. The two remaining issues, Spring 2021 and Summer 2021, deal with niche and less common practice areas for the spring issue, and the summer issue deals with volunteering and pro bono. So those are for you to bear in mind in case you want to submit an article for publication consideration in the print issues. So if we go to the next slide, I'll mention After the Bar is our digital publication, and After the Bar again is geared at 0 to 2 year attorneys into practice area, and it deals with 4 broad categories of articles. We have personal life, professional life, public service, and student loans and finances. And these articles, all of our online articles, are 500 to 750 words. They're very short, very conversational in tone. We run a legal magazine, not a scholarly journal. So it's practical advice, evergreen content that somebody 1 year from now, 2, 3, 4 years from now, well into the future can access this article and take advice that's still relevant to that person's practice. And if we click on the next slide, or we go to the next slide, we'll see examples of articles that have been published online, either in TYL Monthly or After the Bar. So the blue ones indicate that it's an ethics related article, but I want to hang on this slide for a second and highlight that one of the articles we published this past bar year was My Client's Finger Was Bitten Off and the judge banished me from approaching the bench. Sam Siegel, one of our panelists, actually mentioned that, drafted that. And so I'm putting that article link into the chat box. It's really funny. You should read it. Sam has a really good way of telling stories, and it's entertaining, but at the very end, you'll see the practical advice that's relevant to any lawyer, not just a young lawyer practicing personal injury. So have fun reading that one. And right now I'm going to get into some quick Q&A. You are welcome to ask questions at the end, but I wanted to raise some of the questions that we often get. So after this slide, who can be an author? Anyone with relevant experience on a topic can be an author. Most of our authors are in the legal profession, but a lot of them are not. If you recall, that After the Bar has those 4 article categories. We've had doctors, scientists, entrepreneurs, people in the finance space, certified financial planners, researchers, just parents, fitness and wellness gurus. So the author does not need to be in the legal profession. Law students can author articles, but for law students, we ask that they be paired with someone with relevant experience. So that's who can be an author, anyone with relevant experience on a particular article topic. So the next question I'll go over is how to submit an article. You can email articles to tyl@americanbar.org, and that gets, those emails get routed to our ABA staff editor, who handles those and then moves them on to our review committees. So that's tyl@americanbar.org. After that, the question that I wanted to mention is when to submit an article. So TYL accepts articles on a rolling basis. Year-round, we always have people submitting articles, which is great because we publish every month. After the Bar is published weekly, TYL Monthly is published every month, and the print magazine is published every quarter. So we need content. TYL Print Magazine has specific deadlines. So the 2 that are remaining, the winter 2021, we're going to be talking about that in November. So if you have an article topic that you think lends itself to the niche and less common theme, please reach out to us, by November. And then if you have something that might lend itself to volunteering or pro bono, the summer issue, please reach out to us by February. And the next question, what happens after I submit an article? Submissions are reviewed for publication consideration. And if selected, then the editing process begins. And that looks something like this. There are several rounds of editing. We have an associate editor, we have a managing editor, the editor-in-chief, the ABA staff editor. We have at least 4 sets of eyes looking at your article. So be prepared for your article to be marked up. To ensure that the article conforms to TYL's purpose and editing standards and author guidelines. As I mentioned, we're a legal magazine, so we have a certain style, tone. We want to make sure the article concept is addressed. So that's what happens after an article is submitted. And once it's published, if you publish in the print version, you get complimentary copies. If it's published online, you get notified and you can receive a PDF file for you to share with your networks. So the question after this one, do authors receive compensation? No, the article itself is your reward. You will not get paid for submitting an article. So the question after that we'll be looking at, can I republish my article in a different publication? Yes, but the ABA publication that first published your article must be credited. That's really simple. You just include a little blurb that says this article was first published in TYL Summer 2020, volume 23, or whatever it is. So yes, you can republish. And the next slide, what I want to highlight right now is, as a entity within the ABA YLD TYL, the TYL Editorial Board has 3 goals this bar year that we are bringing back from last bar year. The first one is to publish at least 1 author from each of the 50 states, plus Washington, D.C. Bonus if we can also get authors from each occupied US territory. And that's exciting because the ABA YLD spans the continental US, spans the occupied territories, and around the world. So if you're watching this and you are from anywhere in the world, please think about, consider submitting an article. It's really, it will help us toward meeting goal number 1. Goal number 2 is to publish at least 50 articles of original content, and goal number 3 is to publish at least 4 ethics articles. And on the next slide, I want to mention or show, this is our current TYL editorial board. As you can see, there are 32 of us. We just got a YLD scholar who's not pictured on here, but there are 32 of us, and we don't cover all of the continental US or all of the occupied territories or all of the countries around the world. So we need your help, all of you and viewing at home or wherever you're viewing, to submit your articles for publication consideration, and reach out to your networks and tell them to do so as well. On the next slide, you'll see at the end of last bar year, so the one that just ended this summer, if your state, or if this state has a little green check mark, that means we got an author from that jurisdiction. And unfortunately, we were this close to meeting our goal. We didn't find authors from Idaho, Utah, and I believe New Hampshire. And I know people live there. So this year, we're going to try to extra hard to focus on those first. And Kansas. So if you're watching this and you're from Idaho, Utah, Kansas, or New Hampshire, please submit an article ASAP. And I believe that is the last that I have for my part of the presentation. So I'm gonna bring everyone back, Sam, Esther, and Chris, and it's Q&A time. Q&A time for all you viewers.
Thank you, Eli. Yes, so we have a couple minutes left in the program for some questions and answers. So if you have any, you can put them in the Q&A tab there at the bottom. We're happy to address them. Just to get us started, I wanted to go through each of us here. And if you could, just give one, if you had to give one action item based on your experience at the ABA YLD and your current position, what would it be? So Chris, if our participants today had to take one action item from your presentation, what would you recommend?
I think that's a tough one. My number 1 is going to sound self-serving, but it really would be to sign up for the upcoming fall conference. As you mentioned earlier, Sam, especially this year with it being virtual, there's never been an easier way to really kind of dive right into the ABA YLD. Normally, I think all of us would probably agree the conferences are some of our favorite parts about what we do each year with the ABA YLD. That being said, they are a large commitment, both in terms of time and money. But this year, since you don't have to travel, you can join us virtually in Zoom. We have a great list of programs, so that would definitely be my tip.
All right, very good. For my part, on the affiliate side, I think my number 1 tip would be think of one program that your affiliate could host using one of those sub-grants from the ABA YLD. We want to partner with you. We set aside money to do that every year, and a lot of years that money doesn't get used up. So don't think, just because your idea is, if you don't think it's right, submit the application to us. We're happy to work with you with it. We're here to work with you with it. We want it to succeed. So think about one program, and a lot of those deadlines aren't until March. So you got some time, and that's just to submit the application, and then we can hopefully host and help you host a very successful program. So that'd be my tip. Esther, how about you? What would be your one tip or action item here?
Yeah, my tip is kind of a 2-for-1, which is to submit a report for the Embracing Diversity Challenge. Because in order to do that, you're going to have to put on a diversity program. And if you don't have one already, I've covered some resources and toolkits that'll help you put on a diversity and inclusion program for your local association. So that would be my tip, is submit a report for the Embracing Diversity Challenge.
Sounds good. And Eli, what about you? One action item or tip for our participants here to take away from today's program?
I think mine's kind of obvious. You should draft an article and submit it to tyl@americanbar.org. And it's a short article, 500 to 750 words, is pretty much a page single-spaced. So write about your practice area, write about your volunteer service, write about something that you think would be of interest to young lawyers. And for anyone watching, a lot of our articles are of interest to people who aren't in the legal profession. Tons of people have student loans, so they're relevant to anyone with student loans, anyone who's a working parent, anyone who wants to get better sleep. So write about something that is of interest to humanity, and then turn it in.
Sounds good. Thank you, Eli. I'll say from personal experience, I know you shouted out that article I wrote, and thank you for that last year. Working with Eli and the team there at the TYL was super easy. I drafted the article, I submitted it to them. They gave me edits, we worked together, and we got it finalized. And it was, they couldn't have been easier to work with, and it was a great process, and I couldn't be happier with the results. So thank you again for that, Eli. If anyone else has any questions, otherwise, I'm going to thank everyone for participating here today and joining us. Again, if you have any questions for any of us, feel free to send us an email. You can reach out to us. We are here for you. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that's what we're here for. We're here to serve our affiliates and our young lawyers and law students throughout the country, in our territories and around the world. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. It's why we do this. We're all passionate about it. And you'll find that we're a pretty good group to work with. And I think you'll really enjoy it, especially if you end up coming to some of our meetings and conferences. They're a ton of fun. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And we're going to wrap up the program. And if anyone wants to watch it again later, it will be available on demand in a day or so. Thank you again for joining us, everyone, and take care.